Hello everybody, I'm Angela Mitchell, and I am the author of several works of fantasy, all of them unknown, that you can find on Amazon. And I am also the brains behind, if what few there are, behind Dumped, Drunk, and Dalish. I started my blog about Dragon Age about a year and a half ago, and I'm just as obsessed as I ever was. And I thought I would take a moment to talk about what Dragon Age means to me. In terms of what Dragon Age means to me directly, I have to take you back to a moment with me where I was 9 years old, and I was reading The Hobbit, and I had invented my own character. She was a girl named Phelan. She wore a green hood, and she traveled with Bilbo and the dwarves. Because, of course, there was no girl in The Hobbit who traveled with Bilbo and the dwarves. There was no place for me, and I love The Hobbit, by the way. This is not a criticism. But I'm just saying, I was a kid, I wanted to find myself in fantasy, and there was no place for me. Now, I think within a year of that, I did read The Lord of the Rings and eventually got to Éowyn. Thank you, Tolkien. But let's face it takes us a long time to get to Éowyn. And, I just kept looking to find a place to fit into fantasy, to find a place in fantasy for me as a girl. I wanted a strong woman in there. I wanted to feel empowered. I wanted a heroine. And, it was few and far between. I'll always be incredibly grateful for characters like Meg in Wrinkle in Time and A Wind in the Door, because she was one of the few of the proud. And then, of course, along came Robin McKinley. Ursula K. Le Guin eventually began to explore more, female characters. I just want to be Éowyn. And I am not an Éowyn person, y'all. I am a pudgy middle-aged woman. I'm kind of a human muppet. I'm incredibly clumsy. I was born with cerebral palsy, but I was lucky enough to outgrow most of the symptoms. So I spent my childhood in and out of hospitals. I was extremely poor on and off. So I had kind of a tough life, but I kept looking for ways to kind of get a little escape in fantasy from the hardships of the real world, and kind of being dissatisfied, not finding what I wanted, So fast forward to Dragon Age. I had played Mass Effect and loved the whole trilogy, but I found it an incredible revelation because for the first time, with a female shepherd, or femshep, I got to be the badass as a female warrior. And I loved it. She was tough, she was tender, she was thoughtful and empathetic. Obviously, I play Paragon most of the time. Sorry. Although I do always punch that one reporter, by the way, so I'm not perfect. But I loved it. I loved playing FemShep. I loved everything that the games offered us. I loved the whole choose-your-own-adventure vibe. This was my first foray into RPGs. And the whole idea that I could craft the story and the character was a revelation to me. It changed everything for me. To this day, nothing compares with BioWare. So I had played the Mass Effect trilogy, and one day I'm sitting there going, I really wish they had done a fantasy trilogy. Something popped up on Amazon or something, and I went, oh, I had no idea. I had never heard of Dragon Age. For some ridiculous reason, I had missed it until right before Inquisition was coming out. And I was incredibly excited to realize that I could actually, that not only did BioWare give me Mass Effect, but there was a fantasy trilogy. I was in hog heaven. So before Inquisition came out, I thought, oh God, of course I've got to play the trilogy. I've got to start from the beginning. I can't just start with the third one. So I got Dragon Age Origins. I got Dragon Age 2. What was important in the beginning with Origins, and what I think David Gator did especially as the envisioner of this world state and sort of the world builder, is he gave it those dark echoing spaces. He gave us the Darkspawn. He gave us the Blight. He gave us, the legends and Well, the real darkness behind Thedas. And it gives all of that story and action a place to sit. I don't think Origins would be nearly as moving and wonderful without the contrast provided by, for instance, Zevran flirting with Wynn, and you're all on a mission, a near hopeless mission to try to save Thedas, in a quest that is literally almost as tough as Frodo taking the ring to Mordor, or I should say Frodo and Sam taking the ring to Mordor. It's an impossible task, and yet you get these moments of lightness, these moments of humor and charm. And of course, Alistair brings that in spades, because he's Alistair and he's awesome and hilarious and funny. But it wouldn't be as exciting or as moving if it wasn't for the fact that not only is Alistair funny, but he's also a Grey Warden who's going to die horribly at some point, just like our protagonist will, because being a Warden is a death sentence. And so that really resonated with me, giving us this kind of rich, complex, dark history and backstory and foundation. I fell into it pretty hard pretty quickly. And the best part for me was just booting up Dragon Age Origins started up an experience for me that has echoed in each of the games. Inonzur's theme, this beautiful haunting theme, comes up when you start up Origins, and I would just sit there and kind of smile for a moment and just listen to the music for a few seconds and fall into that headspace. I'm going to go to Thedas and escape from the world for a little while. This carried on for me through Dragon Age 2, and then most of all with Inquisition. Because when I boot up Inquisition, the moment the game starts, and Trevor Morris's gorgeous opening theme comes up with with those mournful cellos. Inquisition gave me everything I had been looking for, and I didn't even know that I wanted it. I'm a big fan of, for instance, the protagonist. I really love the Inquisitor, and I love the fact that the Inquisitor is someone without a history or a past. We can headcanon it, we can give them any characteristics we want, we can give them any past we want. I'm a huge headcanon idiot. Anyone who reads my blog knows this already. So I went into Inquisition knowing who my character was right away. And I've known who each of my Inkies were. I've always really felt that I knew, okay, this one is a slightly arrogant human noble. He doesn't know as much as he thinks he does. Of course, this would mean that that particular Inquisitor did not save the Chargers. That's all I'm going to say. It went downhill from there. He wasn't a bad guy. He was just somebody who didn't listen to other people. Otherwise, I always save the Chargers because, as Sten tells us in Dragon Age Origins, the Qunari do not keep their word. They do not hold to treaties or alliances, and nothing useful will come of it, except that you'll lose your lieutenant. You'll lose Bull as a huge asset, both personally, whether you're romancing him or as a friend, or but also as your mercenary captain, as one of your companions in your council. So right away, I found things in Inquisition that spoke to me in all these amazing ways. I loved the open world. I loved the combination of light and dark. I think Inquisition has the best companions of any of the trilogy, and I love every companion in every one of the games. I truly do. But for me, Inquisition offered a curious kind of complexity, an added complexity. It's not that anyone else was missing something, it's just that I was so blown away by the thought and care that went into the character building. There are people who can play Dragon Age who literally can still finish the game and think Bull is the big dumb guy who makes fart jokes. You know, if they didn't talk to him enough, they can end a game and think Solus was just the slightly boring guy, who was a little supercilious and arrogant and, of course, by a certain point in the game, didn't talk to them. You can make the game what you choose to make it. I guess what I'm trying to say is, for me, Inquisition repays your attention. And this is, of course, why I blog about it. This is what I fell hard for. Because it's not just a great game, and it's not just a great choose-your-own-adventure. What I find is built beautifully into Inquisition is the idea that nobody is quite who they seem to be, and that you have to take time and effort to get to know these people. Not just Bull, who I think is one of the best characters I've ever encountered across fantasy or literature or gaming. I think he's incredibly complex and rich, because he's not what he seems to be. But you have to keep talking to him. You have to listen when he talks, you have to listen when he banters, you have to really get to know the character. And then you can end up with one of the most charming, funny, and truly poignant characters in the game, or you can end up with seriously one of the creepiest characters in the game, depending on your choices and depending on how closely you were paying attention. And this is doubly true for Solus. I think, again, Solus is one of the best characters I've ever encountered. And I fully understand those who adore and love him, as perhaps I do, as you may have guessed from my own blog. Or, I absolutely understand those who hate Solus. He's given us plenty of reason to hate him. So this is a lot of fun for me. And the fact that this is a video game, and it's offering me characterizations and thoughts and choices and this kind of complexity is just something that I'm always going to be a huge fan of. And it means something to me, and I'm still not tired of it. I've played the game. I've done 9 at least partial playthroughs, meaning some of those I did for my blog, some of them I did because I needed a specific romance, but in every single case, I thoroughly enjoyed the playthrough. I didn't always go all the way through to Trespasser, or I maybe sped through the Inquisition's, the main Inquisitor quest path. But most of the time when I play Dragon Age Inquisition, I'm in there to escape the world and go have fun and go play. And I can't describe how great that is for me, and what a gift it is for me. And then going beyond Dragon Age Inquisition or any of the trilogy as a piece of work, it changed my life, because I kept playing the game. I'd quickly fallen completely flat for it, but I think at the end of my first playthrough is when I started just going, God, I wish there was one person I could talk to about this. I have a lot of great friends and family, by the way, but none of them are gamers, except for my best friend from college, by the way. They're not gamers. And I do have a couple of friends who were very interested, and we did talk about my feelings about the game, and I'm blessed to have those friends. But I really was just wishing that there was a community. I wish there was some place I could go talk about it. I jumped into a couple of Facebook groups, and the rest was history. These were all my people. The Dragon Age community as a whole, I have found, is overwhelmingly supportive, positive, inclusive, kind. It's just one of the greatest communities I think you're ever going to find across any of the fandoms. And that extends right on through BioWare and the ex-BioWare people who still talk to all of us, who take the time to tweet back to us when we have questions, or when we talk about a character that we love, or who will retweet this or that person's beautiful cosplay of a character from a game that was out 7 years ago. Dragon Age just keeps living, and its community is why an incredible series of games created with thought and care and artistry, and then a fandom and a community of amazing people. So when I played Dragon Age Inquisition, I had no idea my life was about to change. And it did, because not only did I find what I wanted, and I got to be Éowyn, finally, but I also found the community I had wanted my whole life. The community of fellow geeks who loved Tolkien and who still looked for Illuvians or doorways to Narnia. People who were kind to each other and who didn't label each other. There's just something wonderful and really, really supportive and beautiful about the community itself. It welcomed me beyond my wildest imaginings, and after posting in the Dragon Age universe for about 8 or 9 months, it's an inclusive community, it's caring, and it takes a lot of work to keep it that way. It really does, and I'm so impressed with what Stephanie has built over there, and in Soul of Ellen Hell as well. So I went in, and after 8 or 9 months of posting my walls of text about this or that theory, or this is what I thought about Solus here, or this is what I thought about Bull there, I started thinking, maybe I should just put all these walls of text together and start a blog on my own. And, I didn't expect anybody to read it, but I just thought, okay, I'm just gonna... I felt like I did when I was a kid, and I was reading The Hobbit, and I was really excited to realize that I had gotten to know the runes so well that I could actually read the runes. This is what I felt like with Dragon Age. There was so much to explore, and it was just all right there for me. And that's completely due to the writing. It's due to the care and attention to detail that has gone into this world. Because very much like Tolkien, although I don't think the worlds are similar, in any way, other than both being high fantasy, But one thing Tolkien does is when you read his books, you have the feeling it's a continent sitting on a world. You feel those echoes back to previous ages. There is a feeling that this world has existed for a very long time. You're falling into something that is complete. And that's how I feel about Dragon Age. The amount of care that's gone into the languages, the world building, the characters and their complexity, the cultures. I loved it, and I'm still in love with it every day. I'm still blogging about it, and I'm still finding new things. So I guess in terms of what Dragon Age means to me, it started with the world for me, but it ended with the people. These are some of my favorite people all over the world. And for the first time with my blog and with Dragon Age, I feel like I belong somewhere. And I'm not somebody who feels that, so thank you, Dragon Age fans. Thank you, Dragon Age creators, writers. Thank you, BioWare. Thank you, David Gator and Patrick Weeks and Jennifer Hepler and Mary Kirby and so many other writers and artists. Thank you to the actors who embody these characters and make them so real for all of us. You guys you helped create something wonderful and indelible and something that goes beyond simple classification as a video game. I'm never going to be tired of it, and I don't think any other Dragon Age fan is either. So, thank you from the bottom of my heart, and I can't wait to see what you'll do next. Happy Dragon Age Day!